Hey, it's Michael and Tammy again with Homestead. We're about to torch this big pile that's been here about 6 months. It was never a good time to burn. We've been in a drought situation. Now we're getting a lot of rains and stuff like that. We'll go ahead and do that and kind of keep an eye on it. Out here in the country, you know, we live on a bottom. The Bailachita Creek is on the bottom. It floods 3 or 4 times a year, nowhere near the house. We hunt deer down here. There's a million deer prints, turkey prints, you name it. There's otter here, beaver, plenty of just wildlife everywhere, wood ducks everywhere. We had some dozer come in here. When you own a homestead, as you may know, you need to get a dozer in there about once a year, maybe every other year, and you need a track hoe on a piece of property, probably every 2 to 3 years. And that's how we do it. We maintain this place, we put culverts in and all that. I know y'all know this, but some people, believe it or not, don't. Never use gasoline to start a fire, ever. Diesel's slow burning. It won't blow up in your face. Diesel's less volatile. Gasoline will blow up and kill you. Watch the wind. Make sure there's not a burn ban in your area. We had a burn ban up till 2 weeks ago. Finally, we got a lot of rain. There's no burn ban right now. There's no wind. Tonight's the perfect night to do this.
One thing I will say, we forgot the marshmallows. S'mores, anyone? So we're gonna let Michael finish up with the fire down by the creek, and I'm gonna get caught back up on my baking for the week. Now, yesterday I had already done my homemade sourdough sandwich bread. I did another batch of sourdough cinnamon rolls and a cinnamon roll cake. And I also made some granola bars and then some loose granola to put in our yogurt and things. But today, I need to finish with my sourdough crackers that I make. We love to have those with our homemade soups and stews. And it's a much better option than anything you can find in the grocery store. Along with my baking today, I'm gonna be making our sprouts. And we do sprouted alfalfa and sprouted broccoli. Throughout the winter season, especially this year, since my fall garden did not get completed, we are transitioning over to our raised garden beds, and unfortunately that project is still in the works and it's going to be several more weeks. So we love to have fresh greens all year long, but especially in the winter time when we're not out in the sunshine as much, and we want to make sure we're eating nutrient-dense foods, and sprouts definitely fit the bill. Alfalfa is going to be loaded with vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin K. It's got lots of fiber. It's rich in antioxidants. And the same thing goes for the broccoli. Vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin K, very high in antioxidants, nutrient-dense, and delicious. You only need a couple of items for the project, and I'm going to be using my quart-size mason jars along with the sprout lids, and I can't remember where I got these, but if I can remember, I'll link it in the description below. And these are wonderful. It's got the mesh fine mesh screen attached for the draining process, which makes it a lot easier. And then I'm going to show you how we do it. It's very simple. All right, so the process for sprouting your seeds. On day 1, I'm going to take my alfalfa, approximately 2 to 3 tablespoons into the mason jar. And the same thing for the broccoli. I'm just going to go ahead and use 2 different mason jars for this, but I'm going to go ahead and put 2 to 3 tablespoons of the broccoli seeds. And then we're going to add some water. So I'm going to add just enough water to cover them by an inch or 2. I'm just putting these sprout lids on top and setting them on the counter where they'll sit for the next 4 to 6 hours. So on to the crackers, and we have a half-gallon mason jar that I keep our crackers in, and as you can see, we're empty. So it's time to make more. And I make a sourdough cracker. It's got some Parmesan cheese in it, and I'm not the very best at measuring. If you followed me at all and seen any of my recipes, I try to give good measurements. I tend to change things up because I always start with a basic recipe and then tweak it to my liking. And there's never really any concise measuring, but I'll do my best today. So the first thing we're going to need is some sourdough discard, and I have Bela here, my sourdough, who does exceptionally well. And really and truly, if I'm not doing a lot of baking, except maybe once a week I do a bulk baking, then she stays in the refrigerator for 6 out of the 7 days, or at least 5 of the days, because I baked yesterday and I'm baking again today. So I had to feed her again last night. But otherwise, she stays in the refrigerator. I don't have to worry about her. And then the night before I'm going to bake, then I'll pull her out of the refrigerator, I'll feed her, and then the next morning she's ready to go. So that's pretty much how I do sourdough. I don't measure the flour. I don't measure the water. I just, I don't know. I just add to the consistency and make sure that she's fed enough. I think they tend to do poorly when you don't feed them enough. So we're going to start with 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Then we're going to add some Parmesan cheese. And I just grate it right into the bowl. I don't know, it's probably a 1/4 cup, maybe 1/3 of a cup. And then we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of dried rosemary. If you don't want that, you can use some Italian seasoning, but I tend to like the rosemary in my crackers. And we're going to do about a teaspoon of a good sea salt. And we're going to whisk all those ingredients together. And then we're going to add our sourdough and some olive oil. We're going to use about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And this is my 1/2 cup measuring cup. So I'm going to fill it about halfway. And we're going to add our sourdough. And we're going to use about a cup for this. I'm just going to stir it all together until it forms a nice shaggy dough. At some point, you're going to want to use your hands. And this is what it looks like here. Then I'm going to divide this in half, put it in some plastic wrap, and then I'm going to put it in the freezer for about 15 minutes or so. If you want to put it in the refrigerator, if you have time, you can put them in the refrigerator for about an hour or so. I'm kind of in a hurry. I've got a lot of stuff to do today. So I want to get this baking out of the way. Okay, so they're wrapped and they're going to go into the freezer for about 15 minutes. So my dough is finished chilling. It's been in the freezer for about 15 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and roll it out on some parchment paper. And you want to really roll it out as thin as you can get it because they will puff up a little bit when they're baking. And you want a nice crispy cracker. So the key, again, is to roll it out as thin as possible. I'm just going to use a pizza cutter and I'm going to trim just so I can make some nice square cuts. And then I'll re-roll this out in just a couple of minutes. And I'm going to do crackers that are about 1 inch by 1 inch. I mean, I'm not going to measure, but approximately 1 inch by 1 inch. And then I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to just poke just a couple of holes in each cracker. That'll help it not puff up so much while it's baking in the oven. But just keep in mind, it is going to puff up. So the key is to roll it out as thin as possible. And I'm just going to put this on my cooking sheet. I'm going to roll out the rest, the same process, and the other half of the dough, I'm going to roll out the same way. After you have your crackers all lined up on your baking sheet, sprinkle a little bit of salt. And this part is optional. You don't have to add any more salt to your crackers if you don't want to. I just like a little bit of that sea salt on the top of the crackers. All in all, I'd say this is probably less than a half a teaspoon spread across all these crackers. And then we're going to place it in an oven that's been preheated to 350 degrees. And we're going to bake it for about 20 minutes. I just try to keep an eye on it. And halfway through, sometimes I'll turn the pan around. So my crackers have come out of the oven. And I like to leave them on the parchment paper, but place them on a cookie wire cooler. And so that air can circulate above and below the crackers. I don't want soggy crackers. I want them to stay nice and crisp. So some of my crackers ended up a lot darker than others, but that's okay because as long as you roll it out thin enough, it will still come out crispy. I don't know if you heard that, but that's a crispy cracker. And delicious. So my seeds have finished their soaking phase. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain the water. These sprouting lids come in handy. I'm going to drain the water, then I'm going to rinse them, shake out all excess water, and then I'll place them on a plate where they will sit until right before bedtime. Then I'll rinse them again, strain all the water, place them back on the plate, upside down so all the water drains. And you'll do this for about 5 days. I do the alfalfa and the broccoli the same week because they sprout about the same time. And they also, on about the 3rd day or so, because I like to have green sprouts, I will actually put them closer to a window for the last couple of days, and they'll actually photosynthesize, and I'll have green sprouts. Now, for the first few days, they're gonna stay in indirect sunlight. You can put them inside a pantry if you want. I don't find it necessary. I just keep them out of direct sunlight, and they're usually fine. After you get as much water out as you can, you're gonna wanna kind of spread the seeds around. About like that. And then they're gonna go on a plate, like so. And then I'll rinse them again tonight, drain all the water, and place them upside down just like this on a plate. And every day for the next 5 days, I'm gonna rinse them and drain them probably 2 to 3 times a day. You'll have to stay tuned for next week's video to see the finished product of my sprouts. Well, friends, thanks for joining us on the homestead today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you'll be notified for all future videos. We'll see you next time.